Hey Loren, what's up? How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, I was thinking, I wanted to bring you on. I was thinking about the first time that I did CrossFit, probably like 15 years ago. And back in the day, we used to do CrossFit in our garages, and we didn't have these big gyms. And there was a CrossFit.com, and we used to all go online and pick out these workouts. And it was almost just this global community of all these people that did CrossFit uh, in their garages, and we all kind of just share that same experience. And I was just thinking, you've been doing CrossFit now for a very short time, and it's different. And you walk in this gym, and there's all this equipment, and there's these people, and uh, sometimes it can be intimidating. And you've kind of just jumped right into it. And so I wanted to bring you on and kind of talk about your first 3 months of CrossFit and 2000 or 2024 and what that looks like. So, just to start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe a little bit about what inspired you to start CrossFit to begin with?
Sure. Yeah. I'm Loren Bumbelow, and for a job, I work as an academic advisor for Indiana University, and it's a very sit down kind of job. I've been doing that for about 13 years now. I'm a mom of two little kids, 9 and 5. And so you can imagine, oh, and I'm approaching 40. So I'll be 40 in
Nice.
2 months. Yep. So you can sort of imagine over the years having kids, having a sit down job. Um, Exercise has just not been something in my schedule. And the last time I really did anything was I ran a half marathon right before I got pregnant with my 5-year-old. So that was a long time ago. And I've been on sort of a self-care journey. So I worked on my mental health, worked on my marriage, and it just was kind of time to fit exercise back into that picture. And when I was thinking about what I would do and how I would do it, I bought all the at home things and I didn't use any of them because I don't have motivation for that.
Right.
So I thought, okay, well, I have to go to a place so that I can have the motivation there and I can have someone training me and someone sort of telling me what to do. And my husband needed some exercise too. And so I thought I could join this like yoga and Pilates studio. That would be nice for me, but he wouldn't do those things. So I have friends, some good friends who have talked about their CrossFit journey for years. And I thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So, and it was something my husband and I could bond over and something he could benefit from too. So I looked up the CrossFit place in my town and you were it. So I
That's
joined.
awesome. Yeah. So, was there anything besides CrossFit that you were like really looking into, or was your husband kind of interested in CrossFit and you're like, you know what, let's give this a shot just because of your friends? We hear a lot of times people say, I need to go to Planet Fitness, or I need to go to this uh, group fitness studio before I jump into CrossFit. Or did you just kind of get the idea from your friends that it was going to be okay, and you just need to jump in the water?
They've talked about it so often, and I know, and I've met. So I have a friend, Sarah, who's been doing CrossFit for a long time. She doesn't even live close to me, and we've done this girls' trip the last couple of years where she's brought some of her CrossFit friends together, and we've hung out. And so I've seen people of different body types and different shapes and different exercise abilities talk about how much they like CrossFit. And so I've seen, I think, it in real life how you don't have to be this super fit person to join. And I've heard a lot about it. I was considering, I've done all the things, right? I've done step aerobics and I've run long races. I was in sports in high school, but since becoming an adult and not having basketball practice to go to after school, it's been hard to find anything that wasn't really boring that I could stick with. And so this time, and I've joined Planet Fitness and I've given them lots of money and not gone to the gym. And So what I was looking for was a place where I could go to classes where someone else would tell me what to do and how to work out. And I read Shonda Rhimes' Year of Yes book this year, where she talks about saying yes to things for a whole year. And one of the things she does is she starts doing Pilates. She says it doesn't matter what exercise you do, you have to find something that's not torturous to you, something maybe you don't enjoy or love, but you can do and you can keep going. And she was like, I chose Pilates because you can exercise laying down.
Yeah.
So I was kind of considering that. There's a yoga Pilates studio in town. But again, I was thinking about something my husband and I could join together, so that we could encourage each other. And he and I really weren't talking about it. I needed to do it for me. And he's really good at like letting me drag him along for things that are good for him.
That's
So
yeah, that's awesome.
CrossFit's a
So
good thing for both of us.
yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to your first day when you first walked in the CrossFit gym, for your first time. Did you try our free trial class first, or did you just come? Yeah, you just came straight in. Yeah. So, what was your initial experience when you first walked in? What were your initial thoughts? Was it what you expected, on day one?
Well, the first few days, as you know, you go through like one-on-one training sessions. So I remember being a little nervous, but feeling more comfortable that it was just one person. Um, and she, as she was having, first thing, she's like, jump on this bike and warm up for 10 minutes. And I literally haven't worked out in like 6 years, maybe once or twice. And so I was like, yeah, sure. I'm just going to ride a bike. That's great. Um, so again, I found kind of that one-on-one attention. I kind of liked just being told what to do. And so the one-on-one sessions, there were like four of them, those helped ease into what the gym felt like, what it looked like. And then my first class with a whole bunch of other people, I kind of stuck right next to my trainer and I was like, what do I
Yeah.
do? And what do I grab? And where are they going? Um, so I had that person, I think, and that was just coincidental. I mean, she wasn't, I don't, we just happened to be at the same class, but having that person who eased you into it be at that first class or two with you, I think was really helpful because you don't know where to go and you sort of have a little knowledge and you've sweated a couple of times. Um,
Right.
but but there's so much coaching during a class that it didn't take very long to feel comfortable, even
That's awesome.
even when I still
Yeah.
didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. What do you think the hardest part? I ask a lot of people this when they first start, because some of us coaches, we've been doing it for so long that we forget what it was like our first time walking into a class. What do you think the hardest thing is besides the exercise? What's the hardest thing when you first join a class?
Um, some of it I think can just be space issues, right? Feeling like you're obviously the new person, and so you don't want to get in someone's way. Um, you're going to move a little slower, even just collecting the things you need to do for the workout, understanding the workouts. You're going to process some of that a little slower. So I wanted to be respectful of the other people who were there and trying to beat their time or lift a higher weight. And so I was like, what little corner can I set myself in so I'm sort of not in the way? Um, and I think I've done my job for a long time too, right? So I can be explaining things and think and be rushing past things that I know in my head, but someone else hearing it for the first time probably doesn't understand what I'm saying. So just being willing to ask questions. I think the coaches are so nice and so helpful. But obviously, when you've explained the same exercise probably 100 times before, you might forget that there are people who don't understand some of the language you're using. And so when a coach was explaining a workout or an exercise and I didn't understand, I just would raise my hand and be like, I'm new. Can you show me
Yeah.
that again?
Yeah.
Or um, even the things that I knew that I couldn't do yet. Asking, like, what can I do instead? And being willing to kind of put yourself out there a little bit. knowing that you're
was
going
there a
to.
movement specifically that you were, if you saw it on the board or during the whiteboard meeting, you'd say, this, like, you were intimidated by it? You're like, "I don't
Um,
know if this is even gonna go well today." I have those movements. Like, if I see a thruster, I'm like, "This is not gonna be a good day." But as a new person, like, what's that movement look like in the first 3 months?
yeah, that's fair. Every movement at first, I will go into it thinking, okay, well, I'll try that. So I do it once and I go, nope, my body can't do that yet. I mean, rope climbs, I knew that I couldn't climb a rope. I still can't climb a rope. But again, my training had sort of told me what the alternative to that was. Um, I would say one of my nemesises really is back squats. Um, and me and several coaches have sort of talked about some of it's confidence, some of it's I overthink things, and some of it's balance. But still, 3 months later, every time there's back squats or overhead squats, I don't even do those. Um, I'm still working up to doing those with confidence and not falling over. Um, and so I hate those.
Yeah. CrossFit, as we all know, it's kinda known for its intensity, and that's a hard thing to describe to people. Like, what's intense mean? And it's a relative term when, it that means something different for everyone. But I feel like right when someone first jumps in, no matter what, they're like, "That was really intense."
Hmm.
How do you go through that first workout and be like, "That was super intense"? And how would you describe that to people and coming back the next day after you just went through, um, something that you would consider intense?
Well, I've explained to some of my friends that I'm doing this, and here's what I tell them. Um, Unlike perhaps like an aerobic class where for like 50 straight minutes you're biking or jumping or stepping, there's a rhythm to it that's sort of broken up in a way that I'm enjoying personally because I, especially starting out, didn't feel like I could do 60 minutes worth of exercise straight. So, because in the beginning there's coaching, right? Someone's walking through what the exercises are for the day, what the plan is. You can get your um, the things you're going to alter. You can be thinking about how you're going to alter that for yourself. And then the first half is strengthening. And so, honestly, if you're doing lifts for a minute and then you have 2 minutes to rest, there's kind of some standing around. And sometimes there's extra strength things you can be doing, but in the beginning, I skipped those so that I could have 2 minutes to stand around.
Yeah.
So it broke up the intensity. And then my friend had described this, but I didn't understand until I joined. She said, it's really intense, but it's not for very long. It's not like training for a half marathon where you have to go on a 4-hour run. The exercise in the second half is 15 to 20 minutes, usually. And so during those 20 minutes, they're intense, yes, but everyone else around you is sort of suffering the same amount that you are, even if they're lifting heavier or they're moving faster. They're at the same intensity that I am. My body's just at a different level. And so there's some bonding there that we're all sort of sweating and suffering and counting down to the clock together. And it makes it a little less miserable.
Yeah, that's a
And then
great
it's
way to put
over.
it. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So you've been here for 3 months. There's some things that you feel like you need to work on. What are some improvements that you would say you've seen just from ground zero to now? What are some improvements that you feel like you've seen right off the bat in the first 3 months?
Yeah. I think it's interesting for anybody listening. To be honest, I haven't lost any weight. Maybe a
That's
couple
okay.
pounds. Right. And that wasn't the goal for me, to be honest. I wanted to be healthier. I wanted to be stronger. I would love to lose weight, but um, I'm really interested in trying to take better care of myself. And so the improvements I have seen are things like when you see the exercise that day, in the beginning, I often was cutting down how many reps I was going to do, right? So if it said 20 of this and 15 of that, I was like, I'm going to do 10 of that and 5 of that. And so while some of my weights haven't necessarily gone up, I am getting through all of the reps that are being asked of me. And so in the time allowed, right? Because I've had to cut them back so that I could get through multiple cycles of it and so that I could get done in roughly the same
Yeah,
amount of time as everyone else, even though I'm still usually the slowest. And now, most of the time, I'm able to do the amount of reps that's being asked.
that's
And
awesome.
that usually feels good. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you we have Beyond the Whiteboard. That's the app tracking system that we use. Do you use that? Do you track? You know, we always tell people you need to track your workouts, but some people do. Some people get intimidated by seeing the scores or the leaderboard. So do you track your weights and your workouts every day and Beyond the Whiteboard?
I do. Yeah. And I track a couple of different things. So I live and die by my work calendar. It has my personal stuff and my work stuff on it. So I can go back, every week and see, like, I went to CrossFit 3 times that week. I can see that in Beyond the Whiteboard too. But I like seeing those things. I've had an Apple Watch or a smartwatch for a long time. I wasn't using it before, but you can share your fitness tracking with friends through something like that. And so now my sister-in-law and I, every time it notifies us, like, oh, she did a workout, or oh, Loren did a workout. Now I get like a message from my sister-in-law that says, oh, you killed it.
Yeah,
And you get to look and see how many days in a row you closed your rings. So I told her once, I was like, it's kind of like when we're kids, right? You put up a sticker chart. When you get to 5 stickers, you get a reward. It's just an adult version of that. You sort of have to trick yourself into feeling what you accomplished and seeing it visually. And so I do that through the app and my watch and my calendar.
that's awesome. Does your sister-in-law, does she do CrossFit?
No, but what's funny is she has found a gym. She lives in Washington. Has found a gym, or Oregon. She's found a gym that's very similar, but it's more just women, and I think it has some slightly different kinds of exercise, sometimes Pilates and yoga, but strength training types of things. She said that she did CrossFit for a while, but she felt very disappointed when she couldn't match what they were supposed to be doing that day. She couldn't lift that heavy, she couldn't do that many reps. And I said, well, I went into it super out of shape and not capable of doing very much to begin with. So my expectations coming in were pretty low. And everyone that I've come across in our gym has been very encouraging of, you're doing it, right? I even fell down one day and a bunch of people came over and like lifted me back up, and
Yeah,
mostly were just worried about my safety. They weren't judging me. And the advice has always been, cut back so that you can do the movements properly, so that you can get through the workout. It doesn't have to be exactly the way that it's listed on the whiteboard. And so I've always felt very free to adjust it so that I can get a good workout for me, but I can do it. And
yeah.
that's been very helpful.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it a little bit about the class, a little bit about the community. How would you say the CrossFit community here at 9 Degrees has been so far? And what's the word community mean to a new person, coming into a gym? Like what's that mean to you? How's it been? Have you made any new friends? You know,
Yeah. I think that's going to be different to everyone. I'm introverted, and honestly, I have a very full life. I have a lot of friends and family, and a family with young children. So I wasn't looking to necessarily make more friends, in a way that, like, I'm not looking for more people to go hang out with outside of the gym.
right.
But there's still a community there that I feel walking into, because you tend to go roughly the same class every week. Sometimes it changes. And so the 11 o'clock class has become like my new family, and we talk to each other. When we show up and we haven't seen each other in a while, someone usually says, "Where you been?" And so
Yeah.
there's some accountability there and some friendliness there. There's always somebody at the end of class who says, "Hey, good job," even though even though usually I'm, 5 to 10 minutes slower than everybody else, they're still like, "Keep going, Loren." And
Yeah.
so that encouragement and friendliness, and even offering some like tips and, when I was still new, here's some things I did. There's been a lot of that. And it's always felt very welcoming to go. Um, and never really like awkward, like I'm here and nobody cares that I'm here.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, when you see a new person come in now, are you like, "Oh, I remember being that person." I know you're
Yeah.
only 3 months into it, but, getting a lot of new people, sometimes you'll see that new person or they'll be with Leah on their foundations and people will say, "I remember that class." "I remember that." Have you ran into that yet? Have you seen, like, a new person and you're like, "Oh, I remember that workout."
Yeah, there's been a new lady at our 11 o'clock, it seems like the last couple of weeks. And, um, I've, when I see her like kind of looking awkward or not sure what to do, because people did this for me, I usually step over there and I'm like, "Do you need help? Um, Before I could do this, here's what I did." And I'm still changing a lot of the workouts to be able to do something that I can accomplish. And so, when it's something that looks really hard and she's kind of looking like I'm not sure what I'm capable of, I just tell her what I'm doing. I'm like, "Look, I'm new too, and clearly I'm not muscular. So I'm doing this today. So if that helps you at all, or you want to do it with me, just letting you
Yeah.
know." And so that seems like that's been helpful. And it's, um, new people come in and they're still in better shape than I am usually. But it's still nice to see that I get to be kind of that friendly face for someone that people were for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Challenges. You've kinda gone over a little bit, but have you ran into challenges or what's been the most challenging part so far? Um, you kinda went over kind of the class setup, you know, finding your spot, finding, the equipment and where things are. But what would you say? Is it mindset? Is it showing up to the gym? Is it just getting in your car and driving to the gym? Like what's the most challenging part of this new Lauren's fitness journey?
Um, During a normal schedule, right? School's in session, work's in session. It's, winter holiday break right now, so everything's wacky. If I have it on my calendar, I just usually try to do what my calendar says. And in the beginning, getting in the car and going was hard, but I just keep saying, nothing can change if I don't do anything differently. So I will go today. And I've never taken this opportunity, but I've been told more than once, even if you just show up and ride the bike, if you show up and you don't want to do any of the exercises, just get a little cardio, get some community. And if that's all you
Yeah.
do that day, that's better than nothing. And I appreciate having that in the back of my mind,
Yeah.
knowing that if I got nothing to give that day, I can give that. But really, the effort of getting dressed, because as a woman, honestly, that's a lot more work. I have to do my hair. I got to put on a sports bra. I got to put on special
Yeah.
clothes. It's a lot of work and I don't normally wear socks, right? So I got to put on socks and shoes. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So if by the time I've gone through all that effort and I've showed up at the gym, I'm ready to go. As ready as I'm
Yeah.
going to get. So
So,
really just planning ahead and making sure it's in my calendar to make sure I go, has been a big change, but it's felt so good that I just keep going.
yeah,
Um, I think one
that's
of the
awesome.
other biggest challenges has been recovery. I'm really sore afterwards, and I have some back soreness that is part of the reason I'm trying to get in better shape. And so trying to make sure I'm hydrating well, and I am trying to focus on more protein intake and that kind of thing, even though I haven't done much to my diet. But that's been a challenge to make sure that I'm taking care of myself afterwards.
Yeah. We talked a little bit earlier. You do track your workouts and be on the whiteboard, but let's be honest. Have you ever looked at the workout and said, today's not for me, and just not shown up? Sometimes
Sure.
people say, hey, I don't think I'm going to go because of this movement. Have you
Um,
done that before? Do you know what the
yeah.
workout is today?
Yes, it's
Have
back
you looked?
squats again.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
Have you
course.
looked? Okay. Okay.
Yeah. We did
But have you?
squats all day, Thursday and
Yeah.
Friday last week.
Yeah. I felt like it. Yeah.
No, I counted them. I went
Yeah.
home Friday and I was like, I did 100 more squats today.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I feel like we do a lot of squats in CrossFit just in general between wall balls, like kettlebell squat, back squats, front squats, or we're lunging or we're rowing and we feel like we're using our legs again. And oh, now he's got us on the bike.
Yep.
And so I feel like every day is a leg day in CrossFit. But going back to the question, do you ever look at it and just say, you're pretty consistent, but has there been days that you just said today's not it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I try not to very often, so it's not been very, very many days. But when I'm extremely sore, especially in my back, and it's another day of squats, and there's other factors, right? My kid didn't sleep well, or work is really stressful. Even though most of the time the exercise can make me feel less stressed, sometimes what's best for me is a 20-minute nap because I work from home, a 20-minute nap and,
Yeah.
answering 6 more emails. So it's rare that I choose those things. But yeah, sometimes the exercise, when I'm already feeling like not going, and then I see that it's something I'm not going to be able to put a lot of effort into, I will stay home. And especially that 12 days of Christmas thing,
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see that coming. I mean, I saw it the night before and I went, I don't know what that is. That looks scary, but I went anyway. And then the next day I was going to go and I went, yesterday was good.
Right.
I'm gonna recover today. And I don't regret that decision.
Yeah. Minus the 12 days of Christmas. Um, on like a normal week, just going day by day, let's say you're super sore on a Wednesday, do you find, uh, you do have a sedentary, I'm not even saying that word right.
Sedentary.
Sedentary. There we go. Anyway, um, so you sit at your house a lot, at your job, at your computer, you're already sore. Do you find that when you get to the gym and you move through it, it helps a little bit? Or do you find if you take more time off, you're going to be more sore?
Um, no, I usually find moving through it and going back to the gym helps loosen me up and helps make it feel better. During October, my goal was to go 4 days a week, the whole month, which I did. And I'm not sure how I did that because I normally did 4 days in a row and I didn't have a break day in the middle. But to be
Yeah.
honest, I'm more sore the day after, so I'm not sure it makes a
Yeah.
difference. But yeah, the warm-ups are helpful, and by the time I'm there and I'm warmed up, I'm still sore, but we're usually working slightly different things. And then I do feel better after it's all over anyway.
Yeah. Um, if you gave advice to a new person, how important was staying consistent on those 3 to 4 days a week in the first, 3 months? Like, how important do you feel that was for your consistency that you have now?
Um, I mean, I think it's really important, especially in the beginning, because you're still learning the exercises, you're still learning what your body is capable of, what it likes, what it doesn't like. And most people probably joining a new gym or a new exercise program is doing it for a reason. And so I was too. And I needed I needed to dive in and make it a routine, make it a thing I'm used to and familiar with and comfortable with so that when the holidays hit and I couldn't go as consistently because of travel and all kinds of reasons, I had it in the back of my mind what it looked like to go on a regular basis. And so when you start and you're only going once or twice a week, it might take you mentally and physically longer to get used to it and to know what to look forward to, know what to dread. But also in building that community, the more times you see people, the more they're going to be looking for you.
Right.
So in the beginning, it was really helpful for me to go a lot.
That's awesome. Moving into 2025, you've passed your first 3 months. What are your goals? Do you have goals for the next 3 months? Like, what's that look like?
Um, so because of the holidays and my job is in a crazy busy season, I haven't been hitting my 4 times a week goal. 3 times a week has been good for me, four every once in a while. So I'd like to get back to 4 times a week. Because I'm still wanting to make changes physically, right? I want to be stronger. I do want to lose weight. Um, and I have a girls' trip at the end of April with these friends of mine who inspired me to join, and they don't know that I'm doing it. So,
Oh, nice.
my goal would be to sort of show up and them to see a physical difference, and I don't know if that'll happen or not, but I'm excited to surprise them and say, "I'm going to CrossFit with you guys," because they
Yeah.
CrossFit even on vacation. This is
Where you
this
where are
is the
you guys going?
dedication.
Where are
We're
you
going
going
to
on vacation? Oh,
Sedona,
nice.
Arizona this year, yeah,
Yeah.
to celebrate my 40th birthday and another friend's 40th birthday. And um, so I'd like to see some more physical changes. I'd like to dive into some of the nutrition part of it that I really haven't learned anything about yet. Um, and I want to go back to trying to get there 4 days a week.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you're going to go to Sedona, and then you'll get your first experience dropping in probably to another CrossFit gym. That's a
Yep.
whole new experience. It's almost like
Yeah.
you're going into a new gym all over again. And sometimes even when I drop in, I'll be like, "Where's the barbells? Where's the plates? Where
It's
do I get
true.
my wall ball?" And we're at a CrossFit gym every day. So okay, so that's your first 3 to 4 months. Where do you see yourself maybe in a year from now in CrossFit? Big goals, long-term goals.
Ooh, I don't know. I'm not one for huge goal setting, to be quite honest. I mean, I think if I imagine myself to be at the strength level and, the pant size I'd like to be, it's going to take a while. I mean, I'm not um never going to look like I'm 18 again, right? I'm going into my 40s, but I would love to be fitter and healthier for the sake of, right, aging more
Yeah,
gracefully and being that coaching my kids' soccer games and those kinds of things. So, um, I'd like to still be going. I'd like to still be working on um, moving faster. And I don't really care about lifting heavier, to be honest, but
right.
just continuing to see progress, right? Like I
Yeah,
am now, whether that is higher weights or moving faster or actually climbing a rope to the ceiling someday.
yeah,
Those are the kinds of things I'm looking forward to.
awesome. Since we're not in a class environment and we're just on this podcast, are there questions that you would have for me? Um, or any questions you're like, I wish I could ask Zach or one of the coaches more questions, but they seem busy during class, or, we'll get to that later. Are there things that, as a new person you would want to know from a coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think tell me what it looks like from your perspective when someone new joins, especially someone who's not been doing fitness of other kinds.
Yeah.
Um, what does that look like from your end? What are you thinking and feeling for that person and about that person while they're in their first few months of trying this out?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is there are so many things that we do, and to us, it's just everyday language, and we're just talking about movement and deadlifts and back squats and kipping on the pull-up bar, and so there's all this lingo that we talk about every day, and the biggest thing that I try to do is simplify everything to where I don't try to say too much, and I'm just like, "Hey, we're back squatting today. Maybe drive your knees out, you know? Maybe squat to a box." And just give little cues, 1 to 2
Mhm.
cues, and then just let that sit for a little while, and sometimes the movements aren't gonna look perfect in the first couple weeks, but as coaches, we try to be patient with people, and as long as they're patient, and don't try to lift a bunch of weight and throw the weight on the bar and tell new people it's okay to just add a little bit of weight, you know? None of the coaches really care how much people lift. So, as long as we can encourage people to slowly progress,
Mhm.
then that's the biggest thing. And like you're doing a great job at it. But a lot of times people do get intimidated by their progress and they want to, progress as fast as they can. And we do a lot. I mean, we run and we lift and we jump on a pull-up bar and we do burpees and in the summer we flip tires and we push sleds and so just that's the biggest thing is take it slow, have patience, and you know check off little wins. When they
Mhm.
come, just little wins. Maybe I added 2 pounds to the barbell today, or I squatted to a box for the first time, or, I'm able to do a, 20-inch box step up instead of a 12, and instead of looking at the whole picture of the entire class or what everyone's doing, or you're feeling discouraged because of, maybe something else that happened, take little wins because there is a lot of things that we do, and you can grab those little wins. And
Mhm.
over the course of 3 months, you keep stacking these little wins. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh, you look back and you're like, I couldn't do that 4 months ago, you know, but now I'm stepping up on a higher box or I'm sitting on
Mhm.
a box, right? Sometimes people forget because they're looking at the person across the room squatting 400 pounds and they're like, "Man, that's such a long way away," but they're not seeing they're not seeing where all these people came from in the class, and everyone started brand new.
Yeah, and
And
I've had to really focus on those kinds of little things too, because
yeah,
one, I don't want to squat 400 pounds. Like, that's not a goal of mine. It's cool if I
right.
never achieve that. It's really about getting the intense, like, I think, like I said earlier, feeling the same intensity, even if you're not at the same level as someone else. And that's part of the community I've really enjoyed. I am just as sweaty and tired at the end of the exercise as anyone else, even if
Yeah.
I did less reps or I lifted less weights. Um, a little win I had on Friday, even that I didn't realize until I was talking to the coach, because it was one I hadn't worked with before. And I was doing back squats instead of overhead squats because I don't do those yet. And I had a box behind me because that was one thing you taught me to catch myself in case I fall, have a box
Yep.
there just in case. And so I've been working up from squatting to the box to squatting in front of the box and it just being there in case I need to catch myself. And so I was explaining that to her. And then I realized that was the first day that I hadn't actually used the box at all. It was there, but I hadn't fallen onto it. I hadn't squatted to it. I was squatting in front of it and I hadn't needed to use it. And so that is progress.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was talking to someone, it was probably a couple days ago. I was talking to someone who was new, and I told them I wish everyone would have started when I opened the gym because the people that started at that time, they didn't know any different. So they're like, we're starting this thing and we don't know what it is. And we didn't have anything heavier than a 10-pound wall ball. I had one 20-pound in the corner, but everyone had a 10-pound. And then on deadlifts, everyone had like 65 pounds. And that's just what it was. And so everyone just lifted the weight and moved with the PVC pipe. And then they grabbed their wall ball and they didn't know any different until everyone started to progress. And then I said, okay, I'm going to buy 14-pound wall balls now. And some people were like, ooh, what's this? And then you
Mhm.
would see some people would use a 14 and some people would use a 10, but they're all progressing and they're 3 months into it and then they're 6 months into it. And now, that's why I'm glad you came on this call, because now it's so intimidating because you come in and there's 30-pound wall balls and 20-pound wall balls and there's, 53-pound kettlebells and 70s and 35s. And back then we had 20s, right? We had 25-pound kettlebells. And I'm like, sorry, like this is, you know, we're new. This is what we're doing. And we just kind of progressed as a group. And now this group is so big that, we're 10 years later and there's all this equipment. And yeah, it's got to be intimidating for a new person just walking in and seeing the amount of equipment and people, and you know people are throwing their shirts off and high-fiving, and it's just crazy. So
Yeah, well, and that's
um
part of why I wanted to do this call too, is because I'm kind of your average person, right?
yep.
Approaching midlife, kids, career, and not in shape, but have dabbled, with exercise on and off over the years. And so I had the advantage of having heard about it and having friends talk about it and having some sense of what it was before I joined. Um, but I know not everyone has that. And so it is discouraging some days to see how little I can do compared to others, but nobody else makes me feel that way except for me. So I can control that. I can um, think about the tiny wins that I've made and how I went from doing nothing to doing this several times a week, even on winter break, even on
Yeah.
vacation. And those are big deals for me, and to achieve the goals I have of a healthier next 40 years. That's the goal I have. I'm never going to look like what's that guy have tattooed on lift or die? I'm never going to look like that
Yeah.
guy. And that's
Shout,
okay.
shout out
That's
to
okay.
Nick May if he's listening to this. Yeah. Yeah. um yeah, that's funny. He just got that too not too long ago.
Oh, is it new? Okay.
Yeah, it's brand new. Lift or die.
Maybe I'll
I
get
think
one for my
yeah.
50th birthday.
Yeah, lift or die. Yeah, he just got it when he became a dad, I believe, or right before. So to finish up this call, is there anything that you would, anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to cover, you know, for that new person that wants to come in the gym, starting in, the new year, 3 months into it, words of encouragement to that person looking to do something this year?
Yeah. I think if you're ready to try something new, um, then you have the motivation already to get started. What I like so much about CrossFit is that it's not boring. Sorry, running. I've done a lot of running.
Yeah.
But you've been in those jobs, you've been in those exercise programs where you're really trying to have to mentally trick yourself into keep going for another 20 minutes, another 30 minutes, because it's so intense and it's split up in so many ways. You're really just trying to think about, what am I doing after this set? And so you're not so focused perhaps on how sweaty and miserable you are. And so it makes the time go by quicker. And I know for me as a busy mom, I'm always planning schedules and working for other people. And this is an hour where I don't have to think for myself. And I just show up and a coach tells me what we're doing that day. And I get some high fives and I sweat for a little bit and I get to go home. And it feels really good mentally and physically. Um, and so, like Shonda Rhimes said, I think you just have to try to find something that feels satisfying to you in that way. It's always going to be sweaty. It's always going to be kind of a pain. But if you find something that fits your lifestyle, it fits the way you need to think about exercise, then you just have to try and you have to go. So
Yeah.
every time I'm getting in the car to go and I don't feel like going, I just keep thinking about how if I don't go, nothing changes. So I just keep
Yeah.
going.
That's awesome. I think that's a great way to end this podcast. So
Cool.
I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for
And
having me.
yeah, we'll see you here in about an hour and a half.
Okay. I'll see you at the gym.
All right. Sounds good. See ya.
All right. Bye.
Bye.